Welcome to Kill the Clock. This is episode number 4 of the NFL podcast. I'm your host, Ravneet, and here with me today is Shahin Koigani. How's it going, Shahin?
Yeah, what up?
And today we have another NFL expert, Harsimran. How's it going, Harsimran?
Yo, yo, what's up, man? Pretty good. How are you?
Good, good.
Expert.
Uh, so today is the 16th of October. We're heading into Week 7. We just witnessed the Patriots defeat the Jets in a close game, 27-25. The game was in New England, and the Patriots looked good once again. Though I must say, Geno Smith looked quite impressive. He didn't make that many mistakes in this game, and the Jets played well, including Chris Ivory. Shaheen, what are your thoughts on the Patriots and on Geno Smith?
I thought Geno had a great game. He made a lot of plays. He did basically everything that he had to do to keep them in the game, and even though they didn't get touchdowns early in the game and they had to resort to 4 Nick Folk field goals, they were moving the ball really well, and I thought Geno had a great game, honestly. His detractors should shut up for a week at least after the game he had.
Harsimran, what are your thoughts on this game?
It was an interesting game. I didn't watch too much of it, to be honest. But after watching the Patriots move the ball up the field so quickly in the first quarter on the first drive, I expected it to be a blowout. Looking back at the last 6 weeks of Thursday night games, we've had blowouts. One team is winning by 2 or 3 touchdowns by the end of the first quarter. But then you saw, the Jets defense step up a bit, force a couple 3-and-outs, and then get the ball back, and the offense moved the ball down the field. But they made a couple of critical mistakes in each drive that threw off the rhythm and then forced them to kick field goals. But like you mentioned, the game was pretty close and ended with the Patriots blocking the 58-yard field goal attempt from the kicker, the Jets kicker, Nick Folk. So it was a good end to the game. Shane Vereen killed it, 2 touchdowns. He had 11 of the 15 carries rushing carries, and looking toward fantasy advice, you can expect Vereen to be the main feature back in the Patriots backfield.
Yeah, I really expected Brandon Bolden to get some carries, or maybe James White, but James White was just inactive for this game, so you never know what's going to happen in that Patriots backfield. The Jets played really well, but you're right. I mean, they just had way too many field goals to actually win this game. If they converted one of those field goals into a touchdown, and we might be praising the Jets a lot more in this game. That being said, I actually had the Patriots early on, like before the season started, I had them winning the Super Bowl, but that didn't look really good for a couple weeks into the season. But I want to ask you guys, are the Patriots a contender now after going on this run?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so I would caveat the yes. Yes, provided Gronkowski is still active and not hurt. Because if you look at the offense right now, they're thriving with Gronkowski. Even though he didn't have a monster game this week, you can't expect him to have 100 yards, touchdown, or 2 touchdowns every week. That isn't, it's kind of unrealistic. But looking at the team, they're kind of humming. But if you look at the last 4 weeks before Week 5, terrible. There was no sense of chemistry. They weren't moving the ball up the field. Tom Brady looked like he was done. But now you have a resurgence of Tom Brady, for example. Gronkowski's playing well. The running game is doing pretty well. So I expect, if Gronkowski stays healthy, and also the defense keeps playing well and is able to get past the key injuries to Gerard Mayo and a couple other guys, they should be fine. They should be definitely considered a contender.
Shaheen, would you say the Patriots are a contender?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of funny that we were talking. There was so much doom and gloom about them a couple weeks ago, but Brady's responded in a great way, as he's often done in his career. But I agree with Harsimran. I think Gronkowski's trending to 100%, and he's a big part of their offense. They run a lot of 12 personnel with 1 back and 2 tight ends, and Tim Wright is playing more snaps, and it looks like that they're going to go with that going forward. Tom Brady's very comfortable with 12 personnel. Edelman's playing well, Amendola, whatever. But this team is. I think actually the key has to be the defense. I saw them get gashed tonight, and it's a little concerning with Gerard Mayo out. Dante Hightower and their middle linebackers have to really step up, and I'm not sure that from what I saw tonight, I'm not sure if it's a little concerning going into the playoffs. They could get gashed pretty badly. So that's something. I'm sure that'll be a point of emphasis going forward for them. Brady said that they had to be more efficient, but they scored 27 points in 19 minutes of possession. So I don't know what Tom wants, but they got the game, and all credit to the Jets for making it really competitive. I thought they played well.
Yeah, thank God for a close game on Thursday Night Football. We didn't have that for the first 5 weeks of the season.
Another one. They're on a roll.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next game, the Vikings at the Bills. And we won't spend too much time on this game, but interesting note last weekend, Jerick McKinnon got a lot more touches instead of Matt Asiata. So, two questions: who do you guys have winning this game, and can we expect McKinnon to take the lead role in that backfield? Shahin, you could go first.
I'll answer the second question. I have no idea because Mike Zimmer came out a couple days ago and said that they need to give Matt Asiata the ball more. And it
That was
makes
actually
sense.
yesterday.
Sorry, okay. The day's
Yeah.
blurred now, man. So yesterday he came out and said that, and it makes sense because they got killed by the Lions last week, gave up 8 sacks, and Asiata is one of the better backs in the league in pass protection. So it would make sense that they would have him on the field more. But I still think McKinnon is a trending RB2, trending upwards, because he's just so talented. And I think that if they want to have any semblance of an offense, they need to revolve around him, and they need to help Teddy Bridgewater. So I expect them to have a pretty stout test this week against a very stout run defense of Buffalo. If McKinnon shows well, though, I would really like him going forward.
I agree with that. Since Shaheen didn't give a prediction, I would say the Bills and the main reason for that is the play of Kyle Orton. The Bills, as you guys know, have pretty decent receivers, including the tight end Scott Chandler. He's underrated. However, the play of E.J. Manuel really set them back, and they have, as you guys know, the really good running backs, Fred Jackson and C.J. Spiller. But now the difference is Kyle Orton. He's running the offense a lot better. He's putting in a lot of Doug Maroney's concepts. So I really think that they have a chance of winning this, especially with Minnesota not playing too well on offense right now. Their running back situation, like Shaheen talked about, it's Asiata versus McKinnon. Which one gets more touches or which one does better? But then it's not just that. The passing game is not playing very well either. Right? You have Cordell Patterson that has done absolute jack the last 4 weeks. Greg Jennings hasn't stepped up whatsoever, and there is really no production from Teddy Bridgewater or Matt Castle. So, I really have the Bills winning this one.
Isn't Matt Castle dead?
No.
No, dead is like he's dead for the season. Like he's injured the whole year, I thought.
Yeah, no, I meant like in terms of prior performance as well.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. All right, next game.
Yeah, next game is the Falcons playing in at the Ravens, and I'm gonna go with the Ravens here. They just have a stronger defense, and Matt Ryan doesn't play well outside. So, Harsimran, who do you have in this game, and why?
So surprisingly, I actually have the Falcons in this game, and the main reason is that passing tandem of Julio Jones and Roddy White. Yes, the Falcons' defense hasn't played too well, but then again, you're going against Flacco and a running game that has played decently, but is not, something to lose sleep about. Lose sleep over. So I really think that as long as Matt Ryan and the offense plays well, they have a good chance of winning this game.
Interesting. I actually am I was just kind of surprised because the Falcons haven't played well. They kind of struggled last week against Chicago in what was supposed to be a high-scoring game, and as we predicted in this podcast last week. But Shaheen, who do you have in this game?
Ravens. I don't know how the Falcons are going to be able to stop their pass rush. Their offensive line has looked in shambles in recent weeks, and I would expect them to still move the ball, but I think the Ravens will edge this one out. It could be a pretty good game. The Ravens also look a lot better on offense this year. They said that they want to get Torrey Smith more involved, and they have a good tandem now with Steve Smith and Torrey Smith. And their biggest thing about them going into the year for me, for Baltimore, was could they shore up their offensive line? And right now, per Pro Football Focus, they have one of the best run blocking units in the league. Especially their two guards, Marshall Yanda and Kelechi Azameli, are two of the best guards in run blocking in the league right now, and that has meant a lot of production for Justin Forsett. Not for Bernard Pierce, much to my chagrin, but for Justin Forsett, they have a good running game going, and Flacco's been playing really well. This could be a tough game for the Falcons. The Ravens, I see they have a point spread of -5. And I would probably take that.
Quick question here: who do you think is the better back, Forsett or Pierce? Shaheen?
Well, Forsett's 29, so if they want to think about the future, I think they should keep giving Bernard Pierce opportunities. But Forsett for sure has been the better back this year. I think that experience has really helped him. He's bounced around a bunch of teams, but it looks like he looks like he's the guy right now in the backfield. And Harbaugh said that he wanted to ride the hot hand, and it doesn't look like he's going to change that. It looks like Forsett has the backfield all to himself.
Harsimran, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Forsett has looked a lot better than Bernard Pierce. Bernard Pierce doesn't look like he's hitting the hole like properly, or like with any explosiveness. Whereas Justin Forsett consistently makes positive gains and occasionally breaks out the long run. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, same here. Let's move on to the next game. Cleveland playing in Jacksonville. I mean, I really don't know how you guys are going to pick Jacksonville. I hope not, at least. The Browns have looked surprisingly well, and they destroyed the Steelers last week, my beloved Steelers, and I was kind of shocked because the Steelers have had their number for the past number of years. And who do you have in this game? And will the Jags go winless this season?
I don't think they'll go winless. If they have a chance of winning any game, I would say it's probably this one because the Browns are still prone to making mistakes that where they shoot themselves in the foot. But yes, I do agree that they've been playing really well. So I would expect the Cleveland Browns to win this game. However, going on past performance, they shoot themselves in the foot quite a bit, and you never know when that can happen. So I mean, it's quite possible that they end up 3-3 and not 4-2.
Well, I got the Browns, but I just want to talk about them for a second. I mean, they have not been shooting themselves in the foot this season. Guess how many turnovers they have this year?
How many?
Guess? 2.
Wow.
So they're taking care of the ball. They're running the ball really well. I think the biggest issue going into this game is can they overcome the loss of Alex Mack, their really good center, who they gave a huge extension to this offseason, and he hadn't missed a snap in his career up to this point, and looks like he's out for the year. So that's a huge loss. He's one of the best centers in the league. So that he's a huge part of their run blocking, and we'll see. I'm sure that they'll be able to still move the ball on the ground against this Jags front, but it is an issue going forward. But I expect them to take this game, yeah.
Yep, same. All right, next.
Next game we have Carolina playing in Green Bay against Shaheen's beloved Packers. And the Panthers looked a lot better last week against the Bengals, though that game oddly ended in a tie, which I could say for sure that I was not expecting that. But I'm expecting Green Bay to win this game. I think Aaron Rodgers has found his groove yet. He's on a roll. I think he's had like 15 touchdowns the last like 3, 4 games. Shaheen, you had the stat um, you were telling me the other day. Um, who do you have in this game, and what do you think about Aaron Rodgers' resurgence?
Well, I mean, I think much like Brady, they've been doing this throughout their careers. If they receive any criticism, that they'll meet it with a great response, and that's what he's doing. He told everyone to relax, and since then he's thrown what is it, 14 touchdowns and no interceptions. So right now he's sitting on 15-1, and that's the best TD INT ratio in the league, and that's I think the best through 6 games in NFL history. So right now he's red hot, and he's going up against a secondary that, per Pro Football Focus, their corners are two of the worst corners in the league. So I expect them to, if they want to win this game, they have to move the ball through the air like they've been doing, and I think they'll have an easy time of that. And they'll have to stop Cam Newton on the ground, who had a resurgent game last week against the Bengals and looked fantastic. Cam Newton has found a groove again, and if Carolina wants to be competitive in this game, he's going to have a big game. The last time they played Green Bay was a couple years ago. It was Cam's rookie year. He went off for 480 total yards, and that was his second game in the NFL. So we don't really know how to deal with these kind of running backs. Obviously, Kaepernick, I don't want to talk about that in the playoffs. Tannehill, who is actually a pretty good runner, last week had a 40-yard read option play against the Packers. So they have a huge problem with read option quarterbacks, and they're going to have to deal with that heavily this week. So, but I still like the Packers at home. We're really good at home, so I expect us to get the win.
Yep, I agree as well. I believe the Packers will win this game. Let me throw an interesting stat for you guys to ponder. The Carolina Panthers are currently 31st against the run.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that absurd?
That is absurd.
Crazy.
Right?
I mean, their defense was so good last year, and no one thought they were going to struggle.
And they still have the same players in
Uh,
the front seven, right?
Greg Hardy being out, I think,
Oh,
is
okay, except for Greg
huge.
Hardy. But it's just one player. Again, their linebackers are all still there. Most of their defensive linemen are still there. So just one player. I don't think it's just one player that makes that big of a difference.
Well,
But
they
so
lost Captain Munnerlin in free agency.
he's a cornerback. I was talking about front seven only.
No, but I mean, in terms of their 27th in defensive efficiency, and I think a reason why they were such a good defense last year was because they had that one elite edge player that could get to the quarterback in Greg Hardy, who could affect they had a really good pass rush, and their corners didn't have to hold coverage that long. With absolutely no pass rush, and then Hardy not being there, they've been gashed through the air, and we're seeing that 27th in defensive efficiency.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. So the point I wanted to make was, with all the fantasy players complaining about how Eddie Lacy's only had one game in the last 6 weeks where he's played well, this is the week that if he doesn't do well, cut bait. Like, put him on your bench.
Or at least trying to trade him.
Or try to trade him. Yeah, you're not going to get a better matchup than the Carolina Panthers currently, which is weird to say considering the last 2 years or so they've been really, really stout against the run.
Yeah, definitely surprising. Let's talk about another team that doesn't have a very good defense in Chicago. Though they did only hold Atlanta to 2 touchdowns, or actually 1 touchdown and 2 field goals last week. They're going to be facing the Dolphins at home, and the Dolphins did really, really well against the Packers, as Shaheen you called in last week's podcast. So who do you have in this game? I'll start with you, Harsimran, this time. And who do you have winning in this game?
So Chicago versus Miami, I would say Chicago, and the reason is that the offense is just much, much better. Even though Dolphins have been playing pretty decently, Lamar Miller has done well, Tannehill's playing pretty decently, and the line is held up pretty well, considering. I would say that even despite all those factors, the Bears have a much better offensive unit Their wide receivers are much better. The running back's much better. The tight end is a lot better. The quarterback is a lot better. And then on the defensive side of the ball, yes, they do have problems, but they've upgraded significantly in the front seven. And if they can hold for a few series when it matters, I believe that the Chicago should run away with this one.
Shaheen, what about you?
I'm actually going to take the Dolphins in this one in a close game. I don't think they'll have any trouble scoring points against the Chicago team. I think Lamar Miller has something around 5.2 or something yards per carry this year, and Noshan Moreno just tore his ACL, so I expect him to have a big game against a really weak front seven of Chicago. They'll try to control time of possession to keep the ball away from Jay Cutler, but I think the Dolphins are set up for an upset here. I really do think that Chicago's kind of overrated, and Miami fits that. I don't know. I just see them as as a good road underdog this week, and I might lay some units down on them in sports betting. So.
Shaheen, you seem to be really high on the Dolphins this year. Do you have them contending for a playoff spot?
Well, I mean, 2 weeks where I said that they would have close games doesn't mean I'm really high on them.
Okay, it just seems like it. But would you say that they would contend for a playoff spot? I mean, they're 2-3 right now, and they did lose Noshan Moreno, but otherwise Mike Wallace has done really well this year compared to last year.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some early reports that Ryan Tannehill might lose his starting job, but he seemed to play well last week. So, can this team make the playoffs?
I think they can. I mean, they would have to win this week. That would be a great win this week on the road in Chicago. Keep in mind, Chicago at home lost to Buffalo, and Buffalo as a road team. And the Dolphins actually show up well. Their defense shows up well in advanced metrics. They have a wicked pass rush, and I saw that firsthand. Rodgers was hurried a lot last week. He made some great plays, but yeah. But the Jets just went 1-6 with the loss tonight, so it really opens up a wild card contention for the Dolphins. I think they can get that spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree as well. They're definitely a contender. But Shaheen kind of picked against the popular pick, I guess, this week. But I would say that the Bears, unless Cutler pulls a Romo and throws like 3 interceptions.
No, he could pull a Cutler and throw 3 interceptions. We know Jay Cutler is prone to those sort of games.
Yeah, that's true. That's true as well. But I feel like he does that more against division opponents versus
against my Packers. Yeah.
Yeah, Packers especially. All right.
Let's go on to the next game. Cincinnati playing in Indianapolis. Two very, very good offenses. The Colts don't really have a great defense, and the Bengals did up until the last 2 weeks, where they let New England run up all over them, and then they let Cam Newton and the rest of the Panthers score 37 points. So I don't know if they're gonna hold the Colts to that many points, but I think their defense will help them win this game. Harsimran, what are your thoughts on this game?
Okay, so I am actually kind of torn on this game because I think this should be a really good game. I think it'll end up being close because if the Bengals defense keeps playing terribly, it could end up being a shootout, and the Bengals might lose because they don't have AJ Green, and so Andy Dalton does not have his favorite target. On top of that, they lost Marvin Jones for the rest of the season, so they pretty much have Sanu and a couple other random guys. I think that the Colts, especially with the way Luck, Bradshaw, Trent Richardson even, and then all the wide receivers, T.Y. Hilton, Reggie Wayne, and even Hakeem Nicks have been playing. They've been playing lights out. So, I would say it'll be a close game, potential for a shootout with the Colts winning by, 7 points or a little bit less.
Shaheen, who do you have winning in this game?
I agree. I got the Colts also. I don't. It might not be a close game because I think really it comes down to, can the Bengals show up defensively, and I'm not sure why they're doing so badly in recent weeks. It might have something to do with Geno Atkins has struggled in games that I've seen Cincinnati play recently. It looks like he's struggling immensely. He just came off an injury. Their two linebackers have not played well. Vontaze Burfict has to have a big game here. And it just seems to me that again, Harsimran mentioned AJ Green, and Marvin Jones wasn't even playing this year, so it's not like they're. I mean, Mohamed Sanu has to have a big game. He's a pretty good possession receiver, but he's not the deep threat that they kind of need in this offense. They're going to have big games from Giovanni Bernard, and they need their defense to step up. The Colts are much better at home, so I think the Colts could win, and they could win kind of easily because I don't see Cincinnati's defense showing up if you look at recent weeks.
Yep. Just wanted to throw a clarifying comment in there. You mentioned Marvin Jones hasn't been playing this year, and yeah, so I just want to clarify. I know he hasn't been playing, but in terms of looking at last year and the year before that, he was a pretty good wide receiver 2 or 3 and helped out in that passing attack. But so
Yeah.
that's from that perspective, they'll miss him. But yep.
He had 10 touchdowns last year.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, he also had 4 in one game, which everyone picked him up after that week.
That is true.
No, but he is a good receiver, and I do have him on my dynasty team, so I'm hoping a speedy recovery for him.
Ooh, really? Oh, we might have to trade. Really? I like him in dynasty. Yeah, I think his stock is trending upwards. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, on to the next game. We have New Orleans playing in Detroit. The Saints have been kind of disappointing this year. That being said, Detroit's kind of banged up. They had Reggie Bush out, but he was practicing this week, and he is expected to play. And Detroit's defenses look really, really good. So I know the Saints are coming off a bye week, but I'm just going to go with the home team here and say Detroit. Shahin, who do you have in this game?
Oof. Oh man, I kind of have to think about this one. It's in Detroit, so you think that Breeze would have a good game in a dome, but then again, if you look at his numbers on the road in general, he's not very good compared to his home numbers. So I'm going to take another road underdog, and the Saints are an underdog in Vegas right now. I'm going to take the Saints. I think they need to have this game right now, and as much as I want Detroit to lose, I'm being objective here. I think the Saints do come back and they they go to 500 with a 3-3 record, and they upset the Lions, who they have looked great this year. Their defense looks phenomenal, and it's going to really come down to the trenches. Can the Saints contain that wicked pass rush? Nick Fairley, Ndamukong Suh, Donkey Kong Suh, and Ezekiel Ansah. They got so many weapons on that defensive line, and their 2 linebackers are balling out. So, or especially DeAndre Levy, I should say, is balling out really this year. I think actually I don't really like the Lions' rushing attack right now, and I haven't seen too much on that side. I can't really give him a vote of confidence. Although I will say Reggie Bush could go off against his former team, and he could be motivated to do that. So he could have a big game. But I like the Saints as a road underdog.
Wow, I'm actually very surprised you picked the Saints. There's 2 reasons I'm surprised that you picked the Saints. Well, three reasons. One, you mentioned already, Drew Brees does not play very well on the road. Second reason, no Jimmy Graham. Third reason, the Saints defense is absolutely terrible, right? And you look at the Detroit Lions, they're playing a lot better on defense, especially, than people expected. This has taken a lot of pressure off of Matthew Stafford in the running game, because what used to happen before? If Matthew Stafford didn't have a QBR of over 36 or 37, I believe it was, their record was very bad because the defense never held up. They had a lot of good players on defense that never really performed, but for whatever reason, they're playing a lot better this year, and their running defense is number 1. Their passing defense is number 1. Their running defense is number 7 in the league right now, which is great. And I don't think the Detroit Lions will lose this game, especially with the way they're playing, even if they're missing Calvin Johnson, because Joique Bell has looked pretty decent. He looked really good last week. You have Reggie Bush back, and like you mentioned, Shahin, he'll have more of a motivation to face off against his former team and do well. And then on top of that, Matthew Stafford doesn't have to sling the ball as much, and that cuts down on his interceptions and potential mistakes. So I really have Detroit winning this game.
Can I get a counterpoint? Counterpoint.
Yeah, go ahead.
Counterpoint. I mean, they don't have Calvin Johnson. The Saints don't have Jimmy Graham. Hello, Brandon Cooks. He's going to have a big game.
No, I don't think so. Brandon Cooks is going against the number one pass defense in the league right now. Even better than the Seahawks. Even better than the Cardinals with Cromartie and Peterson. The Seahawks. Like, none of these teams are playing at what you would have expected. The Lions are the number one pass defense in the league right now, which is interesting to hear because they don't really have any premier cornerbacks or premier safeties.
I hope you got that plate of crow ready for next week's podcast, bro.
Yeah, let's see what happens. It should be an interesting game nonetheless.
Yeah.
We have a divisional game next. Seattle playing in St. Louis, and I'm going with Seattle here. I don't see them losing 2 weeks in a row. I know they had a really interesting game against the Cowboys last week, and a lot of people, including myself, counted the Cowboys out, but Wilson struggled and their defense struggled, but I'm expecting them to have a comeback game against the Rams. Harsimran, who do you have in this game?
I agree. There's no way Seattle loses to the Rams, especially with the Rams, the defensive line not playing well despite all the big names, and then their cornerbacks secondary is suspect at best. Their offenses look decent, but like many of you guys saw watching the last few Rams games, Austin Davis shows up for one half and then disappears the next half. And they have running backs that are decent, but again, there's no way Seattle is going to lose after losing at home, after getting embarrassed at home to the Cowboys of all teams, right? I really have Seattle in this game.
Shahin, who do you have in this game?
Oh yeah, I agree, and I wanna bring up a point about Seattle's offense. For some reason, last week they decided to run the ball with Marshawn Lynch twice in the first half against Dallas, and that is not how they win games. And I was surprising to see that. They leaned heavily towards the pass. They didn't run the ball with Lynch, who is and I expect them. I expect Pete Carroll and Darrell Bevell, their offensive coordinator, to feed Lynch a lot this week. I think he's going to have a really big game against a bad run defense of St. Louis, and I think yeah, they'll win comfortably.
Yeah, I agree, and yeah, not much else to talk about this game. Trey Mason actually looked really good in the last game when they played the Niners. Your opinions on Trey Mason?
Oh, I like him a lot. I liked him at Auburn. I think everyone who has Zach Stacy is groaning after that game because this was about the same time last year where the projected starter on the St. Louis Rams lost his job to someone else on the team, and that ended up being Zach Stacy. So around the same time this year, about the same week, Trey Mason has come out of nowhere, and now he had a pretty good showing. So I expect them to have a committee going forward, but I don't think Stacy has the job on lock anymore. I think he's now fighting for his job, and I think Trey Mason could win that job because I think he has a lot more burst. He has pretty good vision. He hits the hole hard. Even though he's a small back, I think he's really talented.
Yeah, I agree. He looked good. Let's move on to the next game. We have the Titans playing at the Redskins, and interesting reports about RG3 being limited in practice. I'm wondering when we're going to see him back again because Kirk Cousins has struggled mightily as a starter in this league, and I'm expecting it to continue. I'm going to take the away team and go with the Titans here. Harsimran, who do you have in this game?
The Titans versus who?
Redskins.
Redskins. I would probably say Redskins. I'm not really a fan of either team, to be honest. They've both been playing like crap, but the Redskins probably will win this game. They look a little bit better than the Titans. Shahin?
I don't know. I think I'm going to go with the Redskins too. Uh, I don't really like what the Titans have done this year. Yeah, I can't really say much about this game. Honestly, both teams have looked really bad. Kirk Cousins has to win one, I guess. um,
Yeah, but he's
I,
winless right now, right? As a starter in the NFL.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just don't. No, they won against the Jags. I think. Um, well, no, he
Oh,
went
right.
as a. Oh no, as a starter, you said no because he didn't start that game. That's the only game they've won this year, and he didn't start that game. So no, he's been winless as a starter. I just don't trust Charlie Whitehurst away from home. Um, I think Justin Hunter could have a big game with them not having D'Angelo Hall. So I think I'm gonna lean Redskins in a close game just because these teams are bad.
Yeah, and it's probably safer to go with the home team, but I'm gonna go with the away team this time. Let's move on to the next game. We have the very impressive Chargers playing at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm gonna go with the Chargers here. I think they keep it up. I think Philip Rivers is red hot, and I think he stays that way. I'm hoping Keenan Allen picks it up, but I'm not really expecting that because Philip Rivers has been spreading it around his receiving corps. So, Harsimran, who do you have in this game? And can you tell me where is Keenan Allen?
That is an interesting question. Where is Keenan Allen? It's kind of like that "Where's Waldo" type of thing.
Yeah,
um, I actually don't know. He's undergoing a pretty significant sophomore slump. I forget exactly how many yards he has. I want to say like 240 or something like that. But it's kind of misleading because he had 110 or 105 against
the Jags.
the Jags, yeah, in week 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. And so, I mean, I don't know what's going on with him right now. You would expect him to be, absolutely ripping it up, especially after the rookie season, where even after the first breakout game, he kept breaking out every week, or he had like very impressive stat lines. So I'm so very surprised. And in terms of who's going to win, the Chargers, hands down, they're playing a lot better than the Chiefs. The Chiefs are playing really well right now as well, but they've had one too many injuries on defense, in my opinion. And on top of that, their secondary is suspect. Not as much as other teams, but it is a bit suspect because they lost their main cornerback, Brandon Flowers, who coincidentally is on the Chargers. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It should be a good game, but I do have the Chargers winning.
Shaheen, what about you?
You want me to answer Keenan Allen or
Yeah,
the?
both, please. I'm a Keenan Allen owner, and I do have him in our dynasty team in the league, so
Well,
I
I
am
mean,
very curious.
if you have him in Dynasty, I wouldn't worry. Honestly, I think he's actually played really well this year. I think Philip Rivers is just spreading the ball so well among his weapons in the passing game that I think he's just not getting the opportunities. But when I watch him, I see him separate, and I see him a really good route runner at 22 years of age. I think he's a great receiver. I think he's trending upward. He's going to have games like this because Philip Rivers is doing what he always does. He spreads the ball around. Antonio Gates, Brandon Oliver. They have a lot of injuries, and the Chargers are still rolling through. But I'm actually going to take the Chiefs in this game in a close game. I think I think Andy Reid has probably heard enough of them not feeding Jamal Charles, and I think Jamal Charles is going to have a huge game. So
Interesting, taking the away team once again.
well, I mean, this is a division game. I think the Chiefs will probably be looking at this and thinking, "Oh, we really need this game." San Diego's probably thinking of the Broncos on Thursday night, honestly, and they might not be. They might be overlooking this game, and they might get punched in the mouth. They're only 18th against the rush this season, so they might get gashed by Jamal Charles come Sunday. And honestly, I would not be surprised. I see the Chiefs that looking at this game as a huge game for them to stay afloat in the division and stay at 500. And I think they could get this in a tight game. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers win. And I think ideally they would want to win comfortably so that they could be ready for a huge Broncos game on Thursday night.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I'm kind of excited for that Chargers Broncos game on Thursday night. I think that's going to be the best Thursday night game we're going to see, arguably this year and definitely this so far. But let's go on to the next game. We have another divisional game with the Giants and the Cowboys. And last week I kind of hated on the Cowboys as I mentioned before, and I said that they were going to finish 8-8 once again, and
How about them Cowboys?
they only have 5 wins so far, but they do have a tough schedule coming up. Not so much this week because the Giants look kind of bad on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles. They didn't actually score at all, and Victor Cruz got hurt. So, what does that injury mean to the Giants, and who do you have in this game? Shaheen?
Oof. My heart actually says taking the Giants this week. I know it sounds crazy.
No way.
No
way.
No. I mean, not to maybe not to win the game outright, but to bet on them against the spread. And I think the spread right now, let me see, is 3.5 for the Cowboys. And
Which means the Cowboys are going to win by 3.5 points?
I think we might have another podcast to explain spreads. But
Yeah. I don't know what the spreads are.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay. So yeah, I think the Cowboys. I want to say this too. I mean, I was wrong about them. I had Seattle winning in a blowout last week, and everyone kind of tempering expectations for Dallas, and now everyone is blowing up because, I mean, what a win on the road again. That was obviously the most impressive win of the year in the NFL so far. Cowboys going in and getting the job done against the Seattle Seahawks. They ran the ball so effectively against them, and I think they'll have about the same amount of success against the Giants running the ball. But I don't know. I think this is just one of those games in the NFC East. I mean, I've been watching football for a long time. They beat up on each other and get so many unexpected results in this division. It really would not surprise me if the Cowboys lay a dud. Say DeMarco Murray gets a couple fumbles and then the Giants win the game. Honestly, it would not surprise me. But I'll take the Cowboys. But just wait and see the Giants in a close game. I think this could be one of the games of the week.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that as well. Cowboys is the team that I would pick as well. However, like Shaheen said, I would not be surprised if we have like a multi-interception or like a multi-fumble game from either both teams or from one team. You never know when Eli Manning could throw 5 interceptions. It's happened before. It's unfortunate, but it does happen occasionally for him where he throws multiple interceptions in a game, or you could have multiple fumbles from DeMarco Murray or whoever. And so, like you said, it could be a back and forth game with the last drive deciding who wins.
Yeah, I mean, you never really know, but I'm gonna go with the Cowboys here too. But what do you guys think about Victor Cruz's injury? What does it mean for the receivers left on the Giants? I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. Is healthy at the right time for them, but can he step up and can Ruben Randle step up and replace a very, very good receiver in New York?
He certainly has the talent to. And I think Odell Beckham Jr. is a very good receiver. I liked him coming out of college. And I mean, in the way that Victor Cruz was a undrafted free agent, they spent a very high pick on Odell Beckham Jr. And I think he could be a very good player for them. And I think it could be a seamless transition for Odell Beckham in the slot, filling that role. I highly suggest people picking up first Ruben Randle because he's going to be the number one wide receiver there, and secondly pick up Odell Beckham if you're in a PPR league or a half PPR league because he's going to get a lot of targets. So I think obviously it's a huge loss, but I think we might see a very good year going forward for Odell Beckham and Ruben Randle.
Harsimran, any thoughts on the receivers there?
No, I'm actually not following the Giants as much as Shaheen sounds like he's been following. I just know that Victor Cruz is an important player, especially with no more Hakeem Nicks. And with him gone, it literally falls to Larry Donald, I believe his name is, the tight end, Ruben Randle and Odell Beckham Jr. So you could see this going really badly for Eli Manning the rest of the way because he doesn't have a reliable target. But sorry, I should say proven target.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Victor Cruz is going to be a big loss for the rest of the year for the Giants.
I want to also mention that this season Victor Cruz has been one of the biggest disappointments in terms of. I think he leads the league in drops. I think he had 6 drops within his first 4 games. I don't think they'll miss him as much as people think. Because I just think Odell Beckham is going to be a great player. And I think we're starting to see that. But, I mean, obviously I think they might have some issues in the first couple games, and they might run into issues in this game, only because you have a rookie who's filling in a very important role. Larry Donnell actually it seems like a pretty reliable target over the middle for Eli Manning, and I think he's going to get more run, and I think he probably understands that he's going to have to step up. Everyone will have to step up, but I mean, don't be surprised if the Giants are possibly humming, in a couple weeks, but they might have to take baby steps with this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're 3-3 right now, and this next game is huge for them. They don't want to be 3-4 and have the Cowboys at 6-1. Let's go on to the next game. We have the Cardinals playing in Oakland, and Derek Carr had his best
Harsimran's
game.
Raiders.
Yeah. I mean, Derek Carr, you must be pleased with his performance last week. He had 4 touchdowns, and he looked really good. Andre Holmes looks really good. And, I mean, Maurice Jones-Drew hasn't really done much this year, mostly due to injuries. But Shahin, I'll start with you, Harsimran. What are your thoughts on your Raiders, and can they win this game?
So, yes, I am pleasantly surprised by Derek Carr's performance. I'm not going to say that it wasn't expected, but I didn't expect it to happen that soon. 4 touchdowns and no interceptions until the last minute or minute and a half or whatever the time was is definitely surprising. It's like I think there was a stat going around. Derek Carr has thrown more touchdowns in 6 starts than Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, and there was some other, and Andrew Luck. He's thrown 1 more touchdown than those guys. I think there's 7 versus 6 for I think Luck and Wilson, or 6 for Luck and 5 for Cam and Wilson. So that's pretty impressive. I'm very happy. I think that with the years to come, provided that he stays healthy and the talent around him continues to improve, which I think it will, the Raiders are definitely on the up. However, this week is a tough matchup. The Cardinals are playing really well. Their offensive line is playing pretty well. Their defense is playing pretty decently. Yes, they've gotten gashed by running backs. Yes, they've had issues in the pass attack, but that is against big body receivers that the Raiders don't really have, except for maybe Andre Holmes, and I guess you could count James Jones as a big receiver as well. But comparatively, the Raiders don't really pose as much of a threat as some of the other teams that the Cardinals have played. So while I would be very happy if the Raiders actually win, realistically I would expect the Cardinals to win.
Shahin, who do you have in this game, and have you been impressed by Derek Carr's performance so far?
Oh yeah, I thought he handled himself really well in that game. It's a huge game. Four touchdowns against a team that was top 5 in defense getting into that game. I think it's a really good showing for. I think the Raiders have to be really pleased. Raider fans have to be really pleased. They've had to try to find a quarterback every year, and they're going to have a high draft pick next year. But Derek Carr is starting to prove. Again, it's one game, and he's had one really great game, but he's going to have to build on that. And he's been inconsistent thus far. But this is a really nice benchmark. And a platform for him to keep going, and he could prove to the team, hey, I'm your franchise quarterback. Don't take Brett Hundley or Marcus Mariota next year. We're going to have a top 5 pick. Let's get a D lineman or something else to build our team because I'm your guy. So I think he can actually do it. I think down and distance is going to be really important because Arizona's second against the rush. The Raiders have to make sure that they they do well on early downs and not put Derek Carr in a bad position. I would say that I would say I would pick the Cardinals in this game unanimously. Um, if they had Calais Campbell, the All-Pro defensive lineman, but it looks like he's going to miss this game, and that's a huge boost for Derek Carr. He could gash this team. Um, he has to play well, but for them to have a chance. But I mean, that's what every Raider fan I'm sure is hoping for. I'm still gonna pick the Cardinals, but the Calais Campbell actually, it's a huge boost to Derek Carr.
Yeah, and I just wanted to throw a quick forecast type of tidbit into this little conversation regarding the Raiders. I agree they will probably have a high pick in the draft again this year. All signs point to that. At least they could go 0-16, but I definitely hope they don't go 0-16. That'd be terrible. But I think that the main issue with the Raiders right now is definitely the defense. The offense has been playing pretty decent. They've scored a good amount of points every week, especially the last few weeks or so. However, the defense has been gashed by every team they've played. They're not really standing up in the red zone. They're not standing up against the run. And they're actually I don't know what the exact number is now, but 2 weeks ago they were top 4 against the pass, but that was because everybody was gashing them on the ground, so there was no need to pass the ball. And so they definitely need to improve on defense. So I wouldn't be surprised if they take a linebacker or a cornerback or a defensive lineman to help out with the pass rush or help out with the defense.
Yeah, I think they should because I'm a believer in Derek Carr, and he's done a lot better than his brother so far. And through 5 starts, he has a 50% higher
that's
completion
not
rate.
fair. That's not fair. That guy had literally no offensive line. Come on.
Okay, that's fair.
Wait, Derek Carr?
No, David Carr.
David.
Oh, David Carr. Sorry, I didn't catch the difference between the David and the Derek. I was like, what? All right, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, no, that was pretty much it. I mean, I'm a believer in him, so I think you're right. They should try to fill another need that they have, maybe on defense.
Yep.
But let's go on to the Sunday night game between the Niners and the Broncos. This should be a good one. The Broncos are playing at home, and I know the Niners. I mean, they looked impressive in the second half of that St. Louis game. Not so much in the first half, if you take out that Brandon Lloyd 80-yard touchdown. So I'm gonna go with the Broncos here. I think they're playing a little bit better. I do expect both teams to pick it up near the end of the season, but for this game, I'm gonna go with Broncos. Harsimran, how about you?
I concur. I definitely have the Broncos in this game as well. And the main reason is that despite Happy's comments regarding Parrish Cox
Who's
and
happy?
Mr.
Who's
Hansra.
happy? Mr. Hansra, friend of the program.
Yeah, friend of the program, Mr. Harkir Tansra. Their secondary is definitely suspect. And then especially with the linebackers, even if Scuda and Will Hoyt and all these other random fools have stepped up, they're still missing a lot of linebackers. And I think
we're seeing the Bay Area hate come out right now. The Niners have been great on defense. What is he? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I think Peyton Manning is going to eat the secondary alive.
Oh. Okay, all right.
We might have a blowout in Denver. All right. Shahin, what do you think?
No, I think. All right, let me give the objective opinion now. I think both teams are pretty equal. I wouldn't go against Manning in a national TV game. But I think the spread. I'm seeing the spread at 6.5 points for the Broncos. I will take that. I think the Niners are just as good as the Broncos are, and I'll bet on the Niners. I think the Broncos will still win this game, but I think it's going to be very close. And I think this is obviously one of the games of the week, and I think the Niners will have to do basically what they've always done. Control the clock, take the ball out of
Payne's hands.
Payton's hands. And I think both defenses, despite what Harsimran says, these guys have stepped up. Their secondary is very good. Parrish Cox is playing very well. Their secondary is playing well. Their front seven's great. They're a top 3 defense right now, despite not having an elite pass rusher and an elite linebacker. And I don't think they're going to have Willis in this game. So I think the Broncos will look at this and say, okay, let's try to run the ball against them. And I think they still might have difficulty because San Francisco is just, they have Vic Fangio. They have a great defensive coordinator. But I think that might be too much. Willis might just make Ronnie Hillman have a big game with his absence. I don't see it because Ronnie Hillman is more of a change of pace back. You might see C.J. Anderson in this game, Juwan Thompson. You might see a committee for the Broncos. But I think this is going to be a great game. I just want to say something. I was talking to my dentist this week. We were talking about Kaepernick, and he was talking about how he thinks he's overrated. And he made a good point. The media and ESPN on that Monday night game was eating up that play where he rolls out to his left and off his back foot makes an amazing athletic play to, I think it was Anquan Bolden.
I think so
Davis
as well.
in the back of the end zone against Janoris Jenkins. That's exactly the kind of throw that would get intercepted if Jenkins is just a step further in his coverage. And then we would be talking about how that was a terrible decision. And those are the type of throws that when Kaepernick makes those and those go off, we're talking about him, oh my gosh, what a talented quarterback. That was a terrible decision. But there are very few quarterbacks that could pull that off. But I mean,
agree.
if you do that against a more disciplined and this was the point my dentist was making, if you make that kind of throw against a more disciplined defense, you're going to get picked off. And we'll be talking about Kaepernick being the GOAT. So he had a great game. The first throw he had was almost picked off. He's inconsistent within games, but I will say Kaepernick had a great game against the Rams. And I think the Broncos are a much stiffer test. They look great on defense this year. John Elway did a great job retooling that team on defense, and they look primed to get back to the Super Bowl. So this is going to be a great game. I'm going to get my popcorn ready.
Yeah, same. And I just wanted to throw a quick add-in point regarding Ronnie Hillman and possibly C.J. Anderson and other backs that the Broncos have. One problem that the Rams had last week in running the ball was running up the middle. The Broncos, if they want to win this game and successfully run the ball, they can, under no circumstance, run the ball toward Justin Smith or around Justin Smith. It has to go to the outside. You have to run over the tackles and not over the guard because Justin Smith is way too large. You can double team him, triple team him. He finds a way to make the play. And it's been absurd regarding how well he's played the last few years.
Harsimran. The counterpoint to that is it's all about matchups, right? I mean, they have a different offensive line. They don't have the Rams line. If they had if Peyton Manning was playing with his receivers, his running backs, and for some reason the 5 Rams offensive linemen, then I would agree with you. But they could have some success running behind those guards.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's just a point to keep in mind. We'll see what happens regarding the running game. The San Francisco defense, regardless of my initial hate at the onset of the discussion, is very solid, and their depth is showing in their front seven. With their main linebackers being out either due to injury or suspension, and backup players stepping up and making a big difference. Scuda, Will Hoyt, and I forget who the other guy is, but
Borland.
Who?
Yeah, I know. Anyway, I think it was their 3rd-round pick, Chris Borland. He's a short,
Borland,
very instinctive linebacker. He might have a good showing, or he might get blown up.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I just want to point a quick thing out is Shahin, can your dentist be on the next podcast? It seems like he has some great insight.
Dude, whenever I meet with him, we talk about. He's a big Chargers fan. When I saw him, he had a huge smile on his face. He was like, he hit me on the shoulder. He was like, Phillip Rivers MVP. he's so funny. He's a great guy.
That's awesome. let's go on to the last game, Monday night. We have my Pittsburgh Steelers facing the Texans and MVP candidate J.J. Watt. So I'm gonna go with the man. I really want to stick with my team, but they've been struggling the last few weeks. But I think we're gonna win this one in a close game. Shaheen, who do you have in this game?
Oh man, I'll just say I would not bet on this game at all because I have no idea who's going to show up for the Steelers. They just seem so inconsistent right now, and it looks like they're giving the division over to the Bengals and Ravens to contend for. They might not even end up with a wild card spot like I predicted at the start of the year. They really need to get their stuff together. They're going to have huge issues with J.J. Watt. Ravneet, you might have to shield your eyes because he's going to eat up that line. It's going to be a bloodbath. But I mean, again, the Texans have Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I will give the other team a chance always if they're going up against Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I think the line is 3.5, 4 points for favoring the Steelers. So -4 for the Steelers. I think I'll take that. I think the Steelers bounce back. I think it could be a close game, and then Roethlisberger pulls away at the end. I trust the Steelers a little more at home, but I don't like the way they've looked so far by any means.
I agree with what Shaheen said for the most part. You never know, especially with pretty big dynamic playmakers on both sides of the ball. In terms of you have on Houston's defense, you have J.J. Watt. I think Jadeveon Clowney is projected to be back this week. I'm not sure if there's been an update. People were saying there's a chance he might be back. And then you have Cushing and a couple of the other secondary guys that are playing, Jonathan Joseph, etc. And then on the other side of the ball with Houston, you have Foster, who could blow up, any week, and he has the last couple of weeks. And then Andre Johnson and DeAndre Hopkins. But like Shaheen said, Fitzpatrick, you never know with him. He may be the smartest guy in the NFL with whatever score he had on the Wonderlic test coming out of the draft. But he's prone to throwing, 3 interceptions, just like that. On the contrary, like Shaheen also mentioned, the Steelers are not playing very well right now. But then again, they also have Le'Veon Bell, who can blow up at any point. Antonio Brown, who's a pretty avid playmaker and dynamic playmaker as well. And the only thing that I'm concerned about is the Steelers' defense. But they have I forget the guy's name that runs their defense, but the defensive coordinator. Somebody help me out here.
LeBeau?
Yeah, Dick LeBeau. I never count him out. He's been there for that long for a reason.
It's like he's been there for 70 years.
Say it again?
It's like he's been there for 70 years.
Yeah, seriously, right? But this should be one of the more boring games, to be absolutely honest, of the week.
Oh.
I mean, I can't really argue that. Both teams have been disappointing thus far, and I don't see anything changing.
The Sunday night game is going to be better than the Monday night game, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't really have a pick for this game. It could go either way depending on who shows up on offense and defense.
I'd like to change my pick. I'm going to change because I just learned Jadeveon Clowney might be coming back in this game. If that is the case,
oh man,
if that's true, then Ben Roethlisberger is going to get swamped. They've dealt with. I mean, they've had poor protection in recent weeks, all year long, really. And if they have to worry about Watt and Clowney, he might get sacked 10 times in the next game. I don't know. No, it might be bad if he shows up. If Clowney plays this game, I think it could be a close game. But I will also say that whenever I watch the Steelers in prime time, aside from a few exceptions, they typically do well. So I trust Big Ben, especially at home in a primetime game, and that's why I'll give him the edge in this game. But if Clowney shows up, this could be a close game, and it could be a fun game for Harsimran.
I agree.
I want to. Let's end this podcast with one interesting question I want to pose to you guys, and I'm going to ask Ravneet. You said that J.J. Watt is MVP to this point. Do you think that the most valuable player should always go to a quarterback? Because when you think about it, they are the most important position, and objectively speaking, they are the most valuable players to a team. It's not really close. So, don't you think that there maybe should be like a defensive or like maybe like a non QB MVP, like most outstanding player, non quarterback, and then like most valuable players. Basically, every year it's a quarterback, pretty much, other than a crazy year by Adrian Peterson or somebody. Do you guys agree with that?
I mean, I actually would like to see an award given out to kind of each position. I know that would be a lot, and then people would be like, "Well, everyone's winning awards," you know. But each position is so different in the NFL that you see a bunch of receivers and running backs that aren't going to get the credit they deserve, and just like I was mentioning before, J.J. Watt, I don't know if he's going to win, MVP or like. So I mean. I would like to see that. It would be better than what we have today because you're right, the quarterback position is the most valuable one, and most likely we're going to see a quarterback win MVP this year, whether it be Andrew Luck or Philip Rivers. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah.
Harsimran?
The question was again. Can you repeat the question?
Well, do you think there should be like maybe most valuable player has really been who's been the best quarterback all year and on a winning team? So do you think it should be who's basically most valuable quarterback, and then there should be a reward for non-QBs?
That would be quite interesting, actually, because you're right. Quarterbacks. So the quarterback position is interesting in terms of if they win decisively, if any team wins, it's generally okay. The quarterback played well, but if they lose, it's always a quarterback played bad, even though it could be a series of mistakes or a series of positive plays that help the team win. So I do agree that the quarterback position is a bit overvalued in the sense that, or sorry, the value is inflated a bit. So I definitely believe that instead of not appreciating them, because the quarterback position is very big, very solid, as you've seen with a lot of teams. If they don't have a good franchise quarterback, then they don't play well, regardless of how well they play on offense or defense, running wise, or how well their wide receivers are, how good the defense is. Sorry. It would be interesting if they had a quarterback only award and then the rest of the rest of the people, because there's people that like J.J. Watt is playing really well. Matt Forte is playing really well. There's a couple other people that are playing really well right now, so you can make an argument for
DeMarco Murray.
DeMarco Murray, exactly, him too, right? So there's a couple of guys. Tony Romo, you could even say, right? Philip Rivers, all these guys that are Philip Rivers and Tony Romo are quarterbacks, but I'm just saying those are guys that generally you wouldn't think of as a like the staple MVP. Generally it's Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, etc. Drew Brees, but it should be interesting.
They should have a Peyton Manning award, and Peyton Manning wins every year.
And then after that, the quarterback that emulates Peyton Manning the most in the regular season gets the Peyton Manning award. Oh damn, dude! Rodgers threw 40 touchdowns. All right, he won the Peyton Manning award.
Andrew Luck might win that this year, actually.
Yeah. But that would be interesting.
Don't get me started on Andrew Luck.
We could save that for another podcast, I guess. But this will conclude our episode 4 for Kill the Clock podcast. And thanks for joining us, and join us next time.
Pick up Andre Holmes. Pick up Andre Holmes.